And hello and good morning. I'm David Bowles. This is Bowles.tv, BOLES.television. And we are here with you live Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern. Echo. So I thought I fixed it. The music has been a little low, so I turned up the music a little bit. I found some sound settings. Tried to update, see if there was an update available for our Elgato stuff. Nothing. So maybe I need to go get help on this because I'm not being able to figure this out. And then yesterday I had a BIOS update for the big machine, not the laptop. So I did the BIOS update. Everything looked good. No Windows update, so everything should look just fantastic. Well, I set up the stream, I start the stream, and I see that my camera is all burned out. And I immediately know what it is that auto brightness has been turned back on. And the thing that people complain about with this Elgato cam, which I like very much, is that if you turn off your computer, the Elgato cam doesn't remember your settings. Well, the only setting that I have on my Elgato cam is to turn off auto brightness. And so when I see that I'm burned out, everything around me is all white, the auto balance, I say, okay. So obviously the Elgato cam, when you do a BIOS update, even though you're not turning off your machine, the Elgato cam thinks it's a hard reset somehow and turning everything off and restarting, and it resets back to its original default value. So you have to turn everything off. Go into Elgato cam, turn off auto brightness, save, restart NVIDIA broadcast. Look better. Start Streamlabs. Look. Okay. I wish I could make you look more beautiful, but you can only do so much with an Elgato webcam. But we live in dangerous, crazy times. And I guess we've always known that. You wake up to the news that Shinzo Abe has been assassinated. Whoops, this is not the right article. This is the right article. Shinzo Abe explosives found at home in the shooting suspect's home. Made a homemade gun. Went out, used it, murdered someone, assassinated him. And it's disturbing. And then you find out he made a homemade gun with 2 shots, and both shots got into his target and killed him. And then you read about ceramic guns, ghost guns that can't be detected by metal detectors. And they're on airplanes and people and dogs and cats, and everybody's upset and everybody's wondering what in the world is going on in the world. This is a guy just giving a speech. Why did you kill him? Oh, I didn't really have a reason, as far as we know so far. And it's hard to get a gun in Japan, but not when you can make your own. That's the gun. Absolutely insane. And as I was listening and reading about this assassination, I thought it's so interesting how we have so many of these political shootings of popular people by deranged personalities. One guy wrote an article saying it's because there are fatherless children. Even if the father's in the home, the father is not actively involved with the child. So pretty much blaming the child for not having a father is why you go out and murder people. At least in America. I don't think it makes any sense. And I was just thinking in my memory, in my lifetime, of when we've had these up close and personal killings, up close assassinations. And I pulled all my information from one website because these killings made history. History.com, 1981, March 30, President Reagan shot by John Hinckley, who has been released from prison now. We'll talk about that in a moment. Wants to be a folk singer. Oh, gee. Injured James Brady. I wrote about him in bullsblogs.com. And Reagan was shot, wounded, and never really recovered. I guess it exacerbated his Alzheimer's. And then I kept thinking, well, Anwar Sadat was shot and murdered on a parade stage. John Paul II was shot. Going back even farther, Bobby Kennedy. All of these were up close and personal, where you probably could look into the eyes of your assassin if they were looking at you, and some of these people were shot in the back, like Abe. So 81, March of 81 was President Reagan getting shot. And then history tells us, in the same year, May 13, Pope John Paul II was shot, up close and personal. The assailant, a 23-year-old escaped Turkish murderer, fired 4 shots, one of which hit the pontiff in the abdomen, narrowly missing vital organs, and another that hit the Pope's left hand. Terrible. The Pope never really recovered. He recovered, but he was never the same. And how could you be? I mean, just if you recover from the bullets, it must be emotionally traumatizing to remember a day when someone tried to assassinate you. And then I thought of Anwar Sadat and how that was a nasty, up-close and personal murder. In the same year, 1981. I must have been in 81 a freshman in high school, back in Lincoln, Nebraska. Lincoln Northeast, the Rockets. School colors, black and white. You really can't get more boring than black and white. Not even gray. I think they've now added maybe a little bit of red, but I'm not sure. But black and white, everything black and white. It's a nice combination, but for school spirit, for school color, not so great. And at that time, I think we had 4 high schools at that time. 5, 1 was private, 4 public. Lincoln Northeast, our colors were black and white. East, which at that time was the new high school, blue and white, which is a little bit better. We had Lincoln High, which is the oldest downtown Lincoln high school. Their colors were red and white. Lincoln Southeast, which was old money, their colors were black and gold. Stunning, really beautiful. And Pius, which was the Catholic high school, their colors were green and gold. Very attractive. Black and white, pretty ugly. And if you want to mix it together, well, then you get gray. So in 1981, the president of Egypt was assassinated. Islamic extremists assassinate Anwar Sadat, president of Egypt, as he reviews troops on the anniversary of the Yom Kippur War. The terrorists, all wearing army uniforms, stopped in front of the reviewing stand and fired shots and threw grenades into a crowd of Egyptian government officials. Sadat, who was shot 4 times, died 2 hours later. 10 other people also died in that attack. So who knew 1981 was so bloody and up close and personal? Assassinations and assassination attempts. Reagan in March, the Pope in May, and Sadat in October. Now that's a bloody day and a bloody night, and we wonder where we go from here. Even if you go back in time, Bobby Kennedy in 1968, fatally shot. Sirhan. My lifetime, I was 3 years old, not really of my memory, but I guess it counts. Star athletes Rayford Johnson and Rosie Greer, accompanied Kennedy out a rear exit of the Ambassador Hotel. Sirhan stepped forward with a rolled-up campaign poster hiding his .22 revolver. He was only a foot away, up close and personal, when he fired several shots at Kennedy. Greer and Johnson wrestled Sirhan to the ground, but not before 5 bystanders were also wounded. Greer was distraught afterward and blamed himself for allowing Kennedy to be shot. And Sirhan's trying to get out of jail. He's been in jail ever since. Oh, I was brainwashed. Oh, I didn't know what I was doing. But John Hinckley didn't kill Reagan, just wounded him. Didn't quite kill James Brady, but severely wounded him. Well, he's out from court. Helps when you have a sort of rich and famous family to get you out of trouble when you need it. John Hinckley's freed from court. And it was recent. He just got out, June 15th. He hasn't even been out a month. John Hinckley Jr., who shot and wounded President Ronald Reagan in 1981, was freed from the court oversight Wednesday, officially concluding decades of supervision by legal and mental health professionals. After 41 years, 2 months, and 15 days, freedom at last, John Hinckley wrote on Twitter shortly after noon. Lifting all restrictions had been expected since late September. U.S. District Court Judge Paul Friedman in Washington had said he would free Hinckley on June 15 if he continued to remain mentally stable in the community in Virginia, where he has lived since 2016. Hinckley, who was acquitted by reason of insanity, spent the decades before that in a Washington mental hospital. And now here's where it gets really rich. John Hinckley wants to go on the road. John Hinckley wants to sing you songs. Songs from the jailhouse. The Hinckley Blues. Reagan's would-be assassin has begun to line up shows this summer. We asked 2 DC clubs if they would lend him a hand. And John Hinckley has YouTube videos where he sings and performs just for you. It's just wildly sickening. Indie music John Hinckley Jr., well, better known as the man who shot Ronald Reagan outside the Washington Hilton in 1981, is booking a national redemption tour after spending decades in a psychiatric facility and several years in the care of his late mother. Hinckley is scheduled to be unconditionally released from the court in June. To celebrate, he's lined up July shows in Brooklyn and Chicago. And he tweeted last week to stay tuned for more dates. Ugh. Reagan Foundation recently condemned Hinckley's apparent desire to make a profit from his infamy. Really, if he hadn't shot Reagan, would anybody care? Would anybody be interested to go sit in a darkened room and listen to him sing to you? To play music for you? The Brooklyn Revenue, the venue that will host Hinckley in July, tweeted that, hey, Hinckley served 40 years in prison. Mental health treatment paid his debt to society. Besides, the Brooklyn venue hosted in a separate tweet, Hinckley didn't F up a billionth as many lives as the Reagan admin did. I mean, that's just... wow. John Hinckley Jr. to play sold-out concert after unconditional release. Oof. Unbelievable. So what else is John Hinckley saying to us? Hey, April 8th, big news. I'll be performing on July 8th at the Market Hotel in Brooklyn. Get your tickets while you can. And here's some interesting news, inevitable news. The Market Hotel has rescinded its offer to let you play there after a few hours of backlash. And another person says, please come to California. Why am I even looking at his Twitter page? Because he's infamous and he's famous. And he's insane or not insane? Insane in the membrane? Insane? I don't know. And he's following no one, which is bad protocol on Twitter. But what are you going to expect from a guy who attempts to assassinate a president? Think he's going to follow the rules? Think he's going to play the right chord sequence? Of course he's not going to follow anyone. You follow me. I'm John Hinckley. Oh, and he's the footsteps of John Wayne Gacy. My original painting is just listed on eBay, and he posted that 6 minutes ago. Here's the link. These original oil paintings of mine sell fast. I usually post the painting between 9 and 10 in the morning. Well, he did post it, 9:18. Keep an eye out if you want one. Well, now I have to go look at it, because what am I going to do? I've gone down the monkey hole. Not the monkey pox hole. The monkey hole. Oh. Well, this looks like exactly what you would expect from John Hinckley. Yeah, this is not really surprising. You would expect to see this. That makes sense. The person who attempted to assassinate Ronald Reagan would paint that. And that image has 12 likes, but no comments. See what people are saying 19 hours ago. Oh, here you go. Would you please ship your paintings to Ireland? Oh, and some advice. Why don't you just post it as an auction so you can get top dollar? How much do you sell them for? You're not charging enough. Can you help me, John Hinckley, attempted assassinate of Ronald Reagan? Can you help me sell my painting? Could you maybe sign my painting and sell it for me? If I don't get one in time the first time, do I get another shot? I cannot believe this. Where's the Twitterverse coming out? Giving him big trouble. Now here we go. Paint a portrait of Jim Brady. Use this pose, where you can see he was shot in the head. Those are the scars because of John Hinckley. Now that I like. Oh, and he's a maggot nut. I wasn't sure if he was being genuine or being nasty. Now I think we know, and I'm not going to put a like on that. Wow. Shocking. I just can't. I can't believe this is our America. Happy 4th of July. 1981. Not such a good year for politicians, or religious leaders, or Americans, because we all have to deal with the bloodshed in one way or another. And now we're taking our very first, very brief blood pressure break. Returning in a moment. And we are back from break. Oh no, I keep forgetting. It's a habit. I have to get it figured out because it's just a weird echo. Hey, back from break. This is Bowles.tv, BOLES.tv, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern. Except for next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. There's no show because we're celebrating 30 and 4 years. So we will be doing fun things together with my beautiful bride of 34 years. 34 years is a long time. We have now been married longer than we were alive single. It is a big accomplishment. And my marriage is the greatest success of my life. I've had many highs, many lows. The one sustainability that trumps them all is so what's the secret to a long marriage, Big Dave? Well, I never get asked that. But if I were asked it, I would say, I have no idea. Patience. Who knows? It's different for everybody. Some people have a wonderful marriage that lasts 2 years. Other people have terrible marriage that lasts 65 years. Some people have great marriage that lasts 30 and 40 years. But I would say one interesting thing that I think that works is communication and talking to each other. And when I was a young man, probably 1981 or 82, I was told by one of my mentors. He had been married, didn't have kids yet, but he married his high school sweetheart. They had dated exclusively all through high school. Married right out of high school, sort of. Didn't have kids yet, but they subsequently had 3. And at that time it was very charming that, they were the superstar relationship that everybody wanted to be like, the two of them. Older than me, 10 years older, I would say. And then I kind of look back and I think, well, that's interesting that, you meet your high school sweetheart and the two of you don't ever date or have sexual relations with anyone else your entire life. Interesting concept, a little strange. But the one thing he told me about his relationship, he said they never let the sun go down on an argument. He said, even if we have to stay up all night, we stay up until we're not arguing anymore and we've reached some sort of an understanding and agreement that we're not angry. Because he said, when you go to bed angry, you wake up angry. And then you're angry for the rest of the day, and that anger carries over into other parts of your life. But if you can sit down and talk to each other and figure it out, compromise, find common ground again, then it's better. So I have shared that with my beautiful wife of 34 years, and I do sort of believe that. And I think we do, subconsciously or purposefully, try to do that. That when there's tension or something going on, we don't try to let it simmer or hang around. Let's talk about it, get out of it, because we have 34 to go. We hope. You never know. That's why every day's a gift. So I was talking to my beautiful bride at the break, and she's telecommuting today and happened to see part of the show. Meow. About Hinckley. And she said, what do you mean Hinckley's out of jail? I said the same thing. I couldn't believe it. I've sat on the story for so long because it's so ridiculous and so upsetting. And she said, and he's painting? I said, he's not only painting, but he's going on tour to sing and dance in hotels and nightclubs. She said, what? I said, well, I guess he's been living with his mother for the last 5 years on parole. And now, as of June, he's completely 100% a free man. No restrictions. His mother is dead, came from a very wealthy family. He doesn't need to sell paintings, but he wants to be rich. Not rich, he wants to be famous. That's why he shot Reagan. He wants people to know who he is. Ego-driven mania. And I was thinking, Sirhan Sirhan has been regretful and remorseful for killing Bobby Kennedy. Since 1968, he's been in prison. And he's never getting out. And I thought, what's the difference between Sirhan and John Hinckley? Well, John Hinckley is a nerdy white boy, and Sirhan is not. He is a man of color and foreign descent. But Sirhan killed Kennedy. Hinckley just shot Reagan. That subsequently led to his death, I believe. And I thought, what if those roles were reversed? What if Hinckley had shot JFK and Sirhan had just shot Reagan without killing him? And Hinckley had killed, let's say, RFK. And I think the results would be exactly the same. I think Hinckley would be out of prison, forgiven, mistaken white boy with psychiatric problems, and Sirhan, the darker-skinned, foreign-made man, would still be imprisoned for wounding Reagan. But that's my take on it. But it's very insane. I could not believe what I was reading on the Hinckley Twitter page, and his supporters asking for his paintings. Hey, on break, Commissioner Gordon sent us a link. I don't know if it's a link about cheap shoes or not, but there's a joke in there somewhere about not affording cheap shoes from Old School Cool Reddit. A glimpse inside the Federal Reserve Bank in New York, 1959. I don't think they have gold at Fort Knox or in the Federal Reserve anymore. I think that's not there. They've moved it somewhere. They've melted it into something else. But we say we have a gold reserve. We say we are backed by gold, but we're not. And I guess this guy is wearing some kind of interesting shoe that protects the gold. I'm not sure I understand what the purpose of it is. Why wouldn't you just wear socks? Or be barefoot? I don't understand it. Interesting. You learn something new. Hey, Gordon adds, like the person in Russia who might go to jail for 10 years for traces of oil, marijuana, Brittany Griner, versus the other person who was found with actual marijuana, Mary Jane Stinkweed, who is getting a fine and a slap on the wrist. One of these people is white. You can guess which. You drop a gold brick on your foot. It's 29 pounds and you'll break something. I thought they were trying to prevent skimming the gold with the bottom of your foot. But it's about dropping one on your foot. So it's not steel-toe shoes, it's steel-toe Crocs. As the commenter said, oh, that's funny. What a great picture, though. Oh, those are metal shoe covers that protect the feet. I love it. They used to do a yearly count of the gold in America, and then they don't. And I remember during the Obama years, the Obama administration was being sued by people who watch Fox News saying, Obama stole all the gold. We don't have any more gold. We want access to Fort Knox so we can count the gold ourselves. I believe it was laughed out of court, but boy, oh boy, some of these people will go to any ends they can to make as much trouble for anyone as possible. So you're right, Brittany Griner is being held in Russia. She has pleaded guilty. And as I've read extensively, this is not about any of that. She's going to get 10 years. Hey, Gordon says, notice, by the way, that the photo is in full color. Most segregation protest photos are converted to black and white to give an artificial sense that it happened longer ago than it actually did. Right. And the worst thing that I have ever seen is the original gorgeous black and white photos that are then colorized by people today. You see old movies from the 1880s and 1910, 1920 that have been colorized so you can see San Francisco in living color. And the color is never right. They don't know what the color palette was back then. It's all a guess, and it always looks awful. And there was a guy in New York who was coloring old westerns. This is around the time of Ted Turner, was colorizing black and white movies, and it was very awful and treacherous and ugly. And it stopped, but for a while they were very defiant. This guy, I think his name was Charles something, came to our film class and showed us some of the colorization he had done of old movies. And he had done them all in like pastel pinks and blues and turquoises and yellows. And I remember asking him in class, I said, why are you coloring this when the original is in black and white? And you're imposing your will, strategically, not historically, to change the perception of these old westerns. And he basically brushed me off and said, hey, what do you know? But I'm exposing my art to a whole new audience, which gives appreciation to these old forgotten westerns. I thought the whole thing was ridiculous. But he was brought in to speak to us from New York City, and I was a freshman at the University of Nebraska. So what do I know? I don't know anything. So as I'm reading Brittney Griner, this is all, she's going to be sentenced to 10 years. She'll have to probably serve at least 3 or 4 months of that. And then there's going to be a big release. There's one other American who's being held longer than she. So he technically should get out first because he's been there for 10 or 15 years. But because she's black, she's a basketball player, she's a lesbian with a wife at home, there's, the woke crowd, as they say, wants her home first. Well, it's going to be a bundle deal. I understand it's her, the guy who's been there, and the 2 or 3 Americans who were captured in the Ukraine war, and they were part of the Ukraine army. They were verified by Ukraine. They have Ukraine credentials, so they're technically prisoners of war and should be treated that way, but it's Russia, so we know they're not. So as I understand it, there are at least 4 people that they're going to do in this prison swap exchange, because there's this guy named Victor Boland, Victor something, who is a notorious and vicious arms dealer who has been in federal custody for, I believe, 15 years. And Putin wants him out immediately because, the story goes, that guy, that foreign arms dealer, has a lot of money that belongs to Putin. And Putin wants his money before something happens. But America, they say, has to be very careful because you start, doing these prisoner swaps and people are going to start nabbing Americans in foreign lands and holding them hostage and saying, I want this and that and this and that. So you have to be careful. So they say the price has to be so high for Russia. It has to look so high for Russia that other countries will be discouraged from doing the same foolishness. So that's what's really going on with all of these negotiations. It's all PR, has nothing to do with who was charged with the crime, who's guilty, who's not guilty. It's all a big production, and it's about one person and one person only. We have Putin's money man, and Putin wants him back. So, okay, you can have him back, but we want 4 people. And they said, we want Brittney and the guy that they have in custody, we want them healthy. We don't want them on the edge of death, which is what Russia usually does when they give back our people. They starve them at the end. They beat them. They send them back unsurvivable, so they can't tell their story. So this is going to all play out. It's going to be a big production, but it's going to take 3, 4, 5, 6 months for anything to happen. But I understand the game. Brittney writes a letter to the president, the vice president call the wife. The wife expresses dismay. Biden's dismayed. Kamala Harris is dismayed. Everyone's, we're working so hard. But give us until October. Give us right before the midterms. And we'll do this swap, and we'll bring everybody home and have a big parade and hope no one gets shot. that will give us a big boost in November for the election. Meow. So we saw this at the start of the show by mistake because this was sent to me, popped up in my inbox 1 minute after I went live. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is really interesting. But the website is terrible. So we have to look through this and I have to scroll back and forth so we can see it. And I can't really even make the text bigger because it's so old. But this is an auction website. And I guess there's big news about auctioning rare Kenner toys that have to do with Star Wars. Okay, I like Star Wars. I like toys. And these are the two. The 1979 Kenner Star Wars rocket firing Boba Fett 3 3/4 J slot AFA 85. Selling for $365,000. We're going to find out why in a minute. This is what it looks like up close. I do not understand it, but that's okay. There are many things I don't understand in the world. The other one is this. Hey, 1979 Kenner firing Boba Fett. 3 3/4 hand painted L slot. There's a J slot and there's an L slot. AFA 70. Only one known. $100,000. Woo-hoo-hoo. So look at this one first. Oh, you can see the type is so tiny. I don't know if I can even make it bigger. But this is what you get for $365,000. By now, most people know that the rocket-firing Boba Fett was never released. So when someone calls claiming to have had one as a child, you either think Kenner Connection, as in Kenner employees, were known to take samples home. Oh, not nice. That's stealing from the company. Or false memory. Think Mandela effect, or call it Rocket Fett syndrome. So, best we can figure is that this rocket-firing Boba Fett was probably gifted to the father for his then-child and became one directly involved with the toy trade in Hong Kong back in 1979. Faced with the other absurd possibilities, this is the theory that makes the most sense and allows a person to sleep at night. This figurine has been painstakingly compared to a genuine example sourced back in 1995. Okay. Enlarge. I guess this is the authenticity sticker. This is what it looks like in the real life. I'm into toys, but I'm not into that kind of toy. Now here's the $400,000 one. I don't know why this one is more valuable, but at least this one is broken up into paragraphs, so it's slightly easier to read. Hey, Gordon says, love Boba Fett. There's a good documentary episode about Star Wars toys on Netflix. The toys that made us. Netflix toys. I'm writing it down. This stunning and unique Rocket Fett entered the hobby about 2 decades ago and was for a time part of Justin Kern's collection. An assemblage of 9 different Rocket Fetts known to the Star Wars community as The 9 Holy Grails in a row. Later, in an homage to rocket fet phases in 2013, it also figures notably in John Kellerman's hobby resource Star Wars Vintage Action Figures and can be found online. Now, this is very interesting. Provenance, the history of the piece, extends back to Dave Algiers, who worked at Kenner during the late 70s and early 80s. It is believed he hand-painted 5 to 6 similar L slots, of which 4 examples have been recovered. 2 featuring the standard production paint scheme, 2 featuring an alternative paint scheme. Unlike the production paint scheme, both alternate examples were uniquely painted. As a result, the example offered here is absolutely one of a kind! Exclamation point. It features far more embellishments than found on the production paint scheme examples, which is most notable on the orange and white accents applied to the rocket launcher on the back. More subtle details are the straps painted on the back of the knees, and more detailed highlights on the side of the helmet and shoulder guards in white. Says kids in 1977 for Christmas got a promise card made by Kenner that basically said, here are the toys you're gonna get. Kenner couldn't get those toys made in time. Well, that's sad. That's no fun. You want to have somebody to play with, and not a card. It is possible this figure is a holdover from an internal attempt to convince Kenner to add more detail to their figures. At least one 12-inch Boba Fett was extensively hand-painted to sell this concept, which was ultimately rejected by the company. When you consider that Kenner usually only applied 2 to 3 colors to a typical 3 3/4-inch figure, the Boba Fett character was already straining things with 5 separate colors employed. Had the rocket launcher not been prudently removed for safety concerns, the Rocket Fett would surely have been the Cadillac of all Star Wars figures. Well, that makes me excited. I would like to have one. But I don't have $400,000. Okay, so this is the $400,000 figurine that is fully painted with white and straps on the back. Fascinating. I don't know who would pay this much for this, but I can understand there are people who are desperate to own it. You would think George Lucas has a copy of everything that was ever produced somewhere in his house. And maybe he does, and his kids will sell it because they'll have no interest in it. I still don't know what the difference between an L slot and a J slot is, which is probably why it's not intended for me to purchase this. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of fun. It's cute being a kid. And you can be a kid again for the low price of $400,000. And now we're taking a very brief intermission break. Returning in a moment. And hey, we are back live. Whew, what a day. Here on Bolz TV, BOLES.TV, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern, usually. So, when someone's telecommuting, there's a lot going on. And back and forth, and what's going on, and could you get me some granola before you go back? Oh, and maybe just a little bit of coffee. Yeah. And speaking in general terms about office situations, people do not want to go back to the office. In one office that we talked about earlier this week, there is another case of COVID-19 infections. What is going on? Why are people not protecting themselves? Where are they going? What are they doing? So this one particular office in New York City has had 4 COVID cases in the last 3 weeks. We'll let you know if you're at risk and you should stay home as well. And then there was one, and then 2 days later, you get notification about another one. So I guess they did some contact tracing, and the first person who got infected 2 days later had infected someone else in the same office. And Omicron BA.5 is rising in California. We talked about that. And what else is hitting? Well, we have this ongoing, very bizarre abortion issue in the Great Americas. And I found this from Time Magazine. Fascinating. Talking about right to a woman's body. If you're a child or if you're a woman. And the men around them. Hey, Brad, a 49-year-old white father of 2, told us, Time Magazine, that he wishes to see abortion outlawed apart from these situations of rape. If you can prove it, he said, or health endangerment, if the woman's gonna die, he said. But he also shared his uncertainty about holding to his convictions, saying, if my 16-year-old daughter comes to me and says, I'm pregnant and I want to have an abortion, well, I don't know what I'd do. I cannot say 100% that I would say, no, you've got to have this baby. There's a disconnect. No, you have your baby, but my child will decide later. But you're having it. Oh, and Hay Gordon said, by the way, any character that saw even a moment of screen time in even the first action Star Wars film got an action figure. I think that's great. Some people might, hey, that little tiny character, I will have. I want. And the bar scene was big for weirdo toys. Time Magazine also met 56-year-old Greg, a white, non-religious Democrat in the Mountain West who supports abortion only as a last resort. It's certainly not the preferred method of birth control. And see, that's the conservative speaking point, that these poor black women in these ugly, awful urban centers are getting abortions every week because they use it for birth control. And abortion should not be used for birth control. Maybe a few do that? I can't imagine, because abortion is a very nasty, dangerous procedure. And I can't imagine that you would rely on that to avoid pregnancy when there are easier methods around. And if you go to a place like Planned Parenthood, they're not going to be your abortion provider for birth control. They're going to put you on reliable birth control, and it can be free if you want it. And Lauren, a 24 white unmarried who wishes someone considering an abortion would think about it a bit more, pondering for herself whether it's better to just have an abortion than have the child be raised in a really bad environment. But she also votes to restrict abortion in nearly all circumstances. There you go. Your life is your own, but not your body. Hey, speaking of bodies, have you heard about the monkeypox? Oh, now monkeypox is very interesting because when you read into it, it is what appears to be a sexually transmitted disease. You have to be very intimate with someone, in close contact. This is not COVID. And it's interesting that the people who are most at risk from monkeypox are gay men. And they want to be first in line for these vaccines, and they are not. And it's funny because I'm part of another Reddit group. And it's something like Ask a Doctor. So people post very intimate images, sometimes of burns, of self-harm, and sometimes of private parts. And you have to attest to your age and sex, and it's very well regulated and very safe. And it's not thrilling at all because these are really extreme, gross cases of people who really need to be hospitalized, but who don't want to go because they're scared or they don't have insurance. So a lot of the time people are saying, doctors, physicians, nurses, you have to go. So this guy took a picture of his penis and said, what is this dark, circular, scaly thing? I don't know what it is. And immediately he was told by the people in that subreddit, that looks like monkeypox. Did you get it tested? He said, yeah, they did a test for monkeypox. And everything was fine. They said, you have to go back to your dermatologist and they have to do this certain blah, blah, blah test because it looks like you're not actively infected. So they have to test for antibodies and test for this certain thing by doing a scraping. And you have to go back and be firm about it because this is new and they might know. But you have to go. And if you're being sexually intimate, you have to tell your partner, not suggesting that they were gay. And the person wrote back and said, no, I'm a virgin. And then the next day, that person came back and said, oh my gosh, it is monkeypox. And I didn't know that you're right, that this is I'm told an old scab on my penis. And then we started looking over the rest of my body, and I had all these other little marks all over my arms. He was dark-skinned, all over my arms that I thought were just, like freckles or moles. And the doctor was like aghast and saying, no, those are monkeypox scars. Tell your intimate partners so they can get tested because this stuff is very nasty. And he said, no, I'm a virgin. I have monkeypox on my penis, but I'm a virgin. So sometimes there is wisdom in the crowd. So this is a statement from the CDC that monkeypox is a completely different virus than the viruses that cause COVID-19 or measles. It does not linger in the air. It is not transmitted during short periods of shared airspace. Monkeypox spreads through direct contact with body fluids, that is sex, or sores on the body of someone who has monkeypox, or with direct contact with materials that have been touched, body fluids, sores, clothing, linens. It may also spread through respiratory secretions when people have close face-to-face contact, which to me means kissing or perhaps sneezing in somebody's mouth. So the news today is that there are people in the health field who believe that monkeypox is now a pandemic because it meets all the criteria. It's in 40 countries confirmed. Examples how the monkeypox can spread. No casual conversations. Walking by someone with monkeypox in a grocery store, touching them, items like doorknobs cannot spread. Direct skin-to-skin contact with rash lesions, sexual intimate contact, kissing while a person is affected, yes. Living in a house, sharing a bed with someone, sharing towels, unwashed clothing, yes, spreads. Respiratory secretions, yes, spreads. Maybe still learning, contact with semen or vaginal fluids, we don't know. Unknown, still learning, contact with people who are infected with monkeypox but have no symptoms. We think people with symptoms are most likely associated with spread. But some people may have very mild illness and not know they are infected. And then we turn to New York City, and this monkeypox thing is becoming a problem. As of July 7, 141 people in New York City have tested positive for the monkeypox. Most of these people had mild illness, that were not hospitalized and recovered on their own. Even with mild illness, the rash and sores of monkeypox can be itchy and painful. Now here's the key, vaccination. People want vaccinations, they can't get them. They try to make appointments, they can't get them. New York City has recently received additional doses of vaccine from the federal government, but the vaccine supply remains low. We'll be making more appointments available as we receive additional vaccine supply from the federal government. There are no appointments currently available. We expect more appointments to be made early next week. And then they really get into it. And it's very smart. These are examples of what monkeypox looks like. Now, the guy who had the thing on his penis, this is what it looked like. But darker. The ring was very, very light. Symptoms usually start 7 to 14 days after exposure, which is a long time. But in some cases, they may not appear for 21 days. Now, 21 days, 3 weeks is a long incubation period, and you have to go back and say, what was I doing 3 weeks ago? Was I having sex with anybody? I don't know. If your partners are sick, especially if they have new or unexpected rash or sore, do not have sex or close physical contact, wash your hands, sex toys, and bedding before and after sex. So this is a sexually transmitted disease. Vaccine eligibility. Eligibility for monkeypox vaccination may change. People who meet all of the following conditions can be vaccinated. You must be gay, bisexual, or other man who has had sex with men, and or transgender, gender nonconforming, or gender non-binary. It's very specific, it's very niche, it's very narrowed. It's a good thing that they're being that specific about it. You have to be 18 or older. You have had multiple or anonymous sex partners in the last 14 days. And the most fascinating part of the whole thing is the email that I received 2 days ago that I was going to share with you here, and I decided I would get banned. From the New England Journal of Medicine. And this is the same day that I was reading about the monkeypox penis guy on Reddit. And there was this whole article with photographs of monkeypox on penises at various stages of infection. I sort of wish I could share it with you here, but I have a feeling that I would get banned for showing sexually explicit things that YouTube and Twitch don't want on their air. But wow. And that's a hard thing. That was transmitted through mail. You know, people could say you're sharing. But what do? You're the New England Journal of Medicine. You're informing people, health professionals, doctors, residents, nurses. We have to send them photographs of what it looks like so they can learn what to look out for. and they're sexually explicit, and they're, say, stomach turning and gross, because I'm not a professional. But it's something you have to look at and you have to see to know what it is. Sheesh. And I understand why they don't want to have a conversation about monkeypox, because this is going to be the thing, the AIDS thing all over. Oh, here we go. AIDS was coming to kill all the gays because they're going against God. Oh, hey, have you heard of this monkeypox, the gay disease? That's why they're trying to be subtle about this and hint at it. And we're at the point now where you can't hint anymore. You have to say, gay, bisexual, other man, sex with men, and or transgender, non-conforming, gender non-binary. You may be in trouble. You are first in line for the vaccine. Please come and see us. We don't have any appointments, but when we do, you need to get vaccinated. So this is going to become a hot potato, as they say, in the coming days and weeks, and I hope it doesn't turn nasty. But it probably will. Now we're in our final blood pressure break of the day, returning in a moment. Hey, we're back from break. I'm David Bowles, and this is Bowles.tv. Bowles.television, Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern. And next week we're off for a few days, back on Thursday because of 34 years of marriage. Now, I'm going to be around. I'm always around. But usually in the morning, the big boss lady has things she wants to do together, so she's off. So therefore, we are doing things together to celebrate 34 years of marriage. And I accept. It'll be fun. But I'm always, if you need something, you know where to find me. I'll be online always. Gordon says, tangential, talking about monkeypox, something driving me batty lately is when a medical institute like the Johns Hopkins School of Public Health makes a post about a health-related issue and people react to it. I agree. And it makes me immediately think of the beautiful and wonderful Dr. Fauci, who has been the butt of so much scorn from uneducated, stupid people who threaten his family, threaten his life because he's doing his job. It's outrageous. Here's some more medical news for you today. I find this very interesting. Clinical trials for pig to human organ transplants inch closer. Do you want a pig heart? Now, for many years, they've used pig valves in heart surgery. And because I've been vegan for a long time, I always get asked by these people who have a hamburger and eat in front of me and then make it moo at me. Oh, so if you had a heart attack and you had to have a pig valve inserted in your body, you wouldn't do it because that's from an animal. That's from a pig. Joyce Cole, who used to write for Go Inside magazine, was one of my earliest and most active supporters, wrote article after article, mentioned that to me. She said, you wouldn't get a pig valve, would you? And now I say, I would, because I'm not stupid. I do value my life over the life of a pig valve. Oh, that's a hypocrite. Okay, so I'm a hypocrite. But if that's the current technology, if that's where we are in order to save a human life, death, you have to have a pig heart, I would very gladly thank and accept a pig heart. Oh, you're not vegan. Okay, whatever. Whatever you have to say doesn't affect anything I do because I'm not done living. But if I can avoid eating a pig heart, I will. Sometimes it's in food that you don't even know. Does that make me not vegan? Vegan. There are hardcore people who are very unforgiving on both sides. So I try not to think about it too much because there's really no question about it. Hey, Mr. Gordon says, that and the valves are already there because the pig eaters made them available, I imagine. Oh, now that's very clever. That's a very interesting way of thinking about it. And I get asked about honey all the time. Is honey vegan? And I said, it depends where you live. In the UK, where veganism started, honey is banned. In the USA, people say, well, honey is a byproduct. It's really vomit. It's bee vomit. They're not using it. It has nothing to do with them. You're not eating a bee. You're eating their vomit. So in America, honey's okay. But then there's the factions. Oh, no. Oh, yes. Oh, no. Back and forth. There are things that are worth arguing about, and there are other things that's like, come on. I remember when I was first vegan, I had my bilateral hernia surgery. And I had young learning to ask, when you sew me up inside, is it possible to use a non-animal thread, if it's possible? And my doctor looked at me, he was very old, very wise. He said, what do you mean non-animal? And I said, well, can you not use cat gut? Because there was a time where cat gut catgut was used to sew wounds. And he was holding back a little bit of a laugh and said, oh, no. We haven't used catgut for a good 30 years. And I could tell he was kind of putting me on a little bit because he thought it was a ridiculous question. And I knew he thought it was ridiculous, but he didn't have to outright say it, which I appreciated. So I said, don't worry, we won't use catgut. And I was happy. I said, okay. And then I said, okay. I didn't know you had stopped using catgut. Now I know. He said, don't worry. He said, the operation I'm doing on you, I'm not even really going to be sewing you up. I'm going to be using titanium screws in your pelvic area to hold the mesh in. And then when I'm done with you laparoscopically, I'm going to put steri strips on your belly. So there's no sewing involved. So don't worry about catgut or whatever. It's not going to be a big thing. I said, okay. I was happy. What else is in the news? Hey, Kevin Drum, our favorite jabberwocking guy, asks, did Donald Trump deploy the IRS in his war against the FBI? And this is all coming to light with James Comey, Andrew McCabe, who refused to do Trump's bidding, and he fired them and then clearly told the IRS to go after them. And we're all going to find this out. And of course he did, because that's who Trump is. That's how he operates. But he does it in such a way where it's not his idea. No one can point a finger back to him. It comes through foggy layers of instruction. I think it's really hilarious. And the IRS is a tool that can be wielded against people in many unimaginable ways. That's how they got Al Capone. They didn't get him for robbing banks. They got him for cheating on his taxes. And the best thing are the comments. Yes, Richard Nixon was a great statesman in contrast to the former guy, the two-time loser. No wonder the Justice Department hasn't charged him with anything yet. He's criming faster than anyone can possibly investigate. Nixon sold Rhodesia to China. Normally, I wouldn't reply to our resident anti-Semite idiot troll, but this has been dredged up from God knows what conspiratorial depths. It's absolutely bizarro. Nixon resigned in 1974 and actively aided Rhodesia while in office. The Rhodesian government fell in 1979. Zimbabwe did not develop close ties with China until it was shunned by the European Union in 2003. Since then, the relations can be positively described as bumpy. It's always projection with these people, of course. Trump was throwing a fit about having to turn over his tax returns and screaming about witch hunts while having his own IRS audit his political enemies. Frankly, I would have been surprised if he hadn't done something like this. Also, what about Hunter Biden's laptop? Also in the news, Columbia got all embroidered in this really stinky, awful thing. The university, which had climbed to number 2 in the influential ratings of U.S. News and World Report ranking of schools, has been outed by this guy, a math professor at Columbia University, who somebody said looks like one of our founding fathers, wrote a 21-page critique of the school's data on his website. And this fellow has hounded Columbia for lying about the ratio between faculty, student achievement, and he did it all using data. A 21 stinging page critique. Dr. Thaddeus hosted on his February. In February, he not only challenged the data behind the rating, but added fuel to the debate over whether college rankings used by millions of prospective college students and their parents are valuable or even accurate. And of course, Columbia denied it all, but now they're saying, well, we're not going to participate in the U.S. News and World Report anymore, which I think is a good thing, because NYU is obsessed with it. And anytime they get a little bump in a ranking, they send out these mass emails to everybody on the PR team. saying, hey, we moved up a notch in this prestigious fixed ranking. Finally, in the news today, it's the weekend. Be careful if you're drinking. Here's news hot off the press. Consumption of 7 or more units of alcohol per week is associated with higher iron levels in the brain, according to a study of almost 21,000 people publishing July 14th in the Open Access Journal. Iron accumulation has been linked with Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease and is a potential mechanism for alcohol-related cognitive decline. There is growing evidence that even moderate alcohol consumption can adversely affect brain health. 20,000 participants in the UK reported their own alcohol consumption and their brains were scanned using MRIs. Almost 7,000 also had their livers imaged using MRI to assess levels of systemic iron. All individuals completed a series of simple tests to assess cognitive and motor function. And the results were not great. Participants' mean age was 55 years old, 48% were female, 2.7 classified themselves as non-drinkers. The average intake was around 18 units per week, which translates to about 7.5 cans of beer or 6 large glasses of wine. So it's something with dinner every day. The team found that alcohol consumption above 7 units per week was associated with markers of higher iron in the basal ganglia, a group of brain regions associated with control of motor movements, procedural learning, eye movement, cognition, emotion, and more. Iron accumulation in some brain regions was associated with worse cognitive function. I did not know iron had anything to do with drinking alcohol, but now I know, and now I am forewarned and forearmed. And now we have reached the end of our wonderful week. We have covered many topics, had many conversations, and a plethora of chats. If you have a question or concern for me, you can email me, david@bowles.tv. I will always reply, but I will not be live again until next Thursday. On Twitter, you can find me and super follow for insider information and help with your writing @DavidBowles. Commissioner Gordon signs off from Winter Garden, Florida, saying, thanks for having us. And I reply with, I will see you in a day or 2 or 3 or 4. On Facebook, we're in the middle of an NFT art alpha test, soon to be a beta test. You can take a look, join, have fun. BOLES is the username. On Instagram, we are Bowles Books. On TikTok, which we're now thinking is maybe not a great thing. It's a lot of problems with the TikTok. We are Bowles TV. And on Discord, if you would like to join us for conversation or live chat, we're there quite a bit. Stop by and say hi. So may you have a wonderful nap, a good wake up, and a fantastic sleep. And when ye shall rise into the next day, may your soul be filled with joy and anticipation of learning something new. I'll see you soon.